Thank you, Honorable Speaker. This is the first ever adjournment debate since we assumed office in April, because I could remember in the second ordinary session, there was no adjournment debate. A motion was moved for the Assembly to adjourn, sign it, and without any adjournment debate, and the motion was carried, so there was no adjournment debate. So this today's adjournment debate will offer many of us opportunity to speak on issues that we think are relevant. Honorable Speaker, I would like to start by recognizing the presence of the Honorable Vice President, His Excellency Mr. 𝒂𝒏, and the Cabinet Ministers that are present here. Honorable Speaker, it has been a serious concern in the National Assembly because in the fifth legislature, because during the fifth legislature, adjournment debates were not well attended by ministers. But today, I think I am beginning to have the impression that the cabinet ministers are now beginning to respond to the call by the National Assembly members to be present during the adjournment debates. The adjournment debates offers us National Assembly members opportunities to inform ministers or cabinet ministers who actually make and implement policies, so that they implement policies that reflect the wishes and aspirations of the people. We are, I think, closer to our constituents, our electorates, than the ministers. So we are always with them. We know issues. We are au fait with all the issues that are affecting them. So if we have the opportunity to talk to them, and there is no better forum to do that than during the adjournment debate. And if we are beginning to see them responding to this call, I think they need to be commended about it. So, our debate here, the issues that we are going to discuss, I hope they will take serious note of them, and when they go back to their offices, while they are making policies and programs, our concerns that we gathered from our electorates will be taken on board. Honorable Speaker, I would also like to inform the Honorable Vice President, because he sits here for the President of the Republic, that it has become a very serious concern to the Gambians about the presidential delegation when he travels. People are complaining that the delegations are too large. Given the economic status of the country is poor. You know, people are struggling with their daily lives, and if the president can go out with large delegations who are paid per-diem and all sorts of payments, it's a serious concern. And I would like to inform the Vice President that when he sits with his boss, the President, I think they need to discuss that and try to reduce the size of the presidential delegation just to save costs. It's important. Well, there are certain engagements. Of course, we know he must travel, but when he travels, non-essential staffs, I think, should be left behind, so that he travels with those ones whose services are needed, whose inclusion in the travels will add value to the state. Connected to that is the frequent overseas travels by state ministers. Well, when we talk here, Honorable Speaker, we do not talk on our own. We don't talk because just we want to talk. Because we only talk to relay the information that is circulating in the society. And when we talk, This is why it is important for the state or for cabinet ministers to listen very carefully to us. Well, while we cannot stop ministers from traveling, because usually when they go out, they always come back with something. But sometimes you begin to wonder the frequency of the travels of some of the ministers. Sometimes you begin to wonder whether indeed they are doing it for the interest of the country or whether they are doing it for their personal gains, because there has been in the social media and everywhere, not just in the social media, in society, people are blaming them for Per-Diem hunting, which is not a good sign actually. Yes, while they must travel, their travel must be essential. They need to reduce the frequency of their travels, and two, they also need to report to Parliament. That is my own suggestion actually, because all these travel votes that are in the budget is the Parliament that gives them money to travel. And I think it makes sense, it is fair that when they travel, when they come back, at least they should report to Parliament some of the things that they have achieved during their travel and so on. In the Parliament here in the National Assembly, when committees travel, or when we send delegations out of the country, when they come, they report to us. Now, we don't want to give them money to be traveling everywhere, only to come back without reporting to us so that we know actually what they are traveling for. This is going to help us in our budgeting so that we can see and know how we are going to appropriate funds for travel. And then, Honorable Speaker, another serious concern is the daily rising in the cost of living. People are suffering. Every day you go to the market, you are faced with a different price of commodities. Today you buy a particular commodity for a certain price, and the next day when you go, the price is up there, so that you don't know. So that it seems that somebody somewhere sits and sends a message to him in a WhatsApp group and say, look, increase the prices by this amount. I have a practical experience. In 𝒂𝒂𝒏, in the morning, I wanted a crate of eggs. I went to the market, I went to the shop. The shopkeeper said he didn't have enough eggs. He had few eggs. Then I went to the garage. The next shop was closed. I went in, by the time I came back, the price of eggs, because I couldn't buy a crate, I wanted to buy 7 eggs. By the time I came back, the price of egg was increased by $1. Imagine within the space of 30 minutes, the price of egg was increased. And this is the daily problem that people are facing in the market. And we have to understand that we are in a very, very, very poor country. People are suffering. People are barely making a living. And the number of people who go to bed hungry is increasing. The number of people who do not have 3 square meals in a day is increasing. So these are issues that we need to look at properly. So, Honorable Vice President, when you go, tell the President that people are definitely hungry. People are poor, people are hungry. And, very, very soon it will reach desperation level, because sometimes, it's difficult. People are just finding it extremely difficult to cook. People are hungry. Then, there is also a problem which is connected to daily rising cost of living. A country or a nation that depends for a greater part of its living on imported food is not secure. Almost all the staple foods in the Gambia we are importing. We are importing rice, we are importing onion, we are importing cooking oil, and almost everything. These are imported from other countries. Now, given the current global economic problem, what do you think is going to happen? This is something that we need to consider. So this is why it is important to, in addition to trying to make living easy for people, I think it's also important that we try to develop our agricultural sector. I think, full self-sufficiency. We cannot continue to depend entirely on imported food throughout. It's not possible. So this is why it is important for the Ministry of Agriculture to come up with sound agricultural policies that would boost food production in this country, encourage farmers. You know, just before the beginning of the rainy season, we all know we had issues with fertilizers, and I think I stood here and said, well, given the current circumstances, then it was going to be a very bad season if farmers couldn't get fertilizers at the right time. So, well, thank God this year the rains are good, but I don't know what lies ahead at the end of the farming season, whether farmers are still going to have a good harvest because they didn't have fertilizer at the time they needed it. We are not even sure. But I think sound agricultural practices that would boost food production in the country should be seriously looked into so that we stop depending on imported food. If we have problems in countries where we import food from, we are in very, very serious troubles. Another issue I want to talk about is the frequent killings. Just a few days ago, I think just a few days ago, so at the beginning of the week, one of the honorable members raised a matter of the day, and he spoke about a certain issue, but this one is also an issue that is very, very serious, frequent killing. You know, we've always had, in fact, it has become a weekly problem now. Barely a week passes by without hearing news of some stabbing or some killing. And usually, these are young people who do these things. So to the extent that sometimes I want to believe that maybe those who are committing all these crimes do so under the influence of drugs. I think for me, there is a serious correlation between drugs and crime rates, especially killings. And this is why, and I want to urge the cabinet ministers responsible for security, and of course the vice president, because I think he's the chief minister here, to consult the relevant authorities and try to do something about drugs and crime. And then finally, my constituency, I am the member for Kiang East. Throughout the last 5 years, we have not benefited any development in my constituency. We have serious issues that need urgent attention. There are problems with our roads. You know, the roads leading, the only good road in Kiang is the South Bank Road that passes to Jarasoma from Kombo. Apart from that, no other road in Kiang is good. You can't even call them roads, because those roads that connect villages to the main road are more of bush paths than roads. During the last 5 years, we faced this issue here. I talked about it in the National Assembly here. And I observed, and when I did, the then Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Roads and Infrastructure, consulted me and asked me to give him the total number of roads in my constituency that needed construction. I gave him an estimate of the number of kilometers, but I think he left that note in the National Assembly here. It never went out to the National Assembly, because after that, I have not heard anything about it. People are struggling on a daily basis. There are school children in the constituency who are traveling about 8 kilometers or even more to attend senior secondary school. There is only one senior secondary school in my village, in my constituency.
Honorable Member.